hello, everybody. Welcome to the Preacher Dad podcast. My name is Jared, and I am the Preacher Dad. And you've reached part 2 of our discussion with David Lashley about self-defense. And this is a very important subject. Dads, you got to be able to protect your families. And so we're going to dive into part 2 right away. First, I want to just remind you that this podcast is brought to you by Cornerstone Fellowship. Cornerstone Fellowship is that sweet little country church out in the middle of nowhere that just loves Jesus a lot. And we would love to love you and show you Jesus and point you to him. But why don't you come on out and visit us? You can find us on the web at cornerstonefellowship-ga.org. That's cornerstonefellowship-ga, because we're in the middle of Georgia, .org. Come on out and we'd be happy to just share fellowship with you. So, all right, folks, let's start Fatherhood Friday, part 2 with David Lashley.
David, so let's say we don't have any weapons on us, unfortunately, and somebody comes after us and we have to engage in some sort of a physical, an altercation with them or whatever. If we don't have any training of any kind, what should we do? What should we aim for? How should we respond to a situation like that?
Sure. And the 3 main areas that I think the focus should always be is the eyes, throat, and the groin area. We call it our center line, our primal center line area that we like to attack. So eyes is the obvious. I mean, we've all barely been touched before, and you're like, eyes will water for hours. So it doesn't take a lot. And the real key to it, more than anything, when it comes to if you're striking or hitting out or gouging out of something, is remember we're there trying to survive. We're not there to have our hands raised as the winner. And so when you're trying to survive, you're just trying to buy time and create distance. And that's a big difference than saying 2 guys squaring up and let's get into a fight with it. And I think sometimes that gets confused, for a lot of people. But like fingers in the eyes, I'm a fan of the open hand. I mean, I still will teach people closed fist, but open hand, because it starts with your standing, like, hey, I don't want any trouble. And I'm using them like we're trying to de-escalate. I just put my hands up, but I'm also giving boundaries. We're setting a tone with it. If I start with, I don't want any trouble, leave it now. No, I'm inviting you with it. And that might not, if they didn't really want to fight, I'm now telling we need to. So I always start with the hands, because then besides that, then it goes into the next. It could be, like I said, like a finger jab to the eyes, a little wide throat. And I hit to the groin area. If I'm looking to strike, I want to hit with my hand open, because the ideal, as I had one of my coaches say, the best way is they let them have your 5-finger discount. So when you hit in their groin, that 5 fingers, because we know if you've ever been hit in the groin, you can get hit in the front and it hurts, and it can make you feel about half nauseous. But when you get hit behind, you're on your knees, and it's a whole nother day for you. And that's the ideal behind it. So if we like just thinking about fist only, that you're hitting in the front. We want front and back. We want it all, but preferably the back with that. And and it's like you said, always the big confusion is we're not trying to fight. We're trying to survive, get to safety, and create the distance with that. And as we're doing all these things, depending on how bad it is, like when I tell people, when I'm approaching, like, hey, I don't want any trouble, my awareness, also the part of awareness is, as I'm doing that, my brain is scanning, my eyes are scanning what could be a weapon. What can I use to my advantage If I can create space, can I get to, people at a workplace, there's a stapler, a desk over. Can I create space to get to that stapler to help me be a weapon or get to a chair, stuff like that? Or can I get a barrier between us? So
Mm.
I'm using those three types of strikes to get something in between us to create that time, maybe to dial 911, something like that. And being very vocal and verbal. That's another thing, you know, screaming. I've heard this so many times before over the years in court. Make sure your words mean something. If I need to bring attention to myself, yelling the words like fire, help, those get people's attention. I don't know how many times I've sat and heard like a witness go to testify. I didn't help them because I just thought it was a husband and wife arguing. I didn't want to get involved with that. And there's no questions if you yell those three words, people are going to turn and walk.
Hmm.
Maybe they might not come to your assistance, but they'll at least dial 911 and say, hey, there's someone yelling fire, and there's no fire, and they're screaming and yelling at one another. Or there's or help or something like that. So it's drawing that attention, it's being verbal with it, trying to get that, and or just saying stop and being forceful about it, but letting people know that you mean it and stuff. I got on a
Yeah.
little rant, sorry.
No,
No,
that's
that's
good.
great.
That's really good. Good.
Good stuff. David, talk for a minute about de-escalation. What are some ways that you can, diffuse a situation? The Bible says a soft answer turns away wrath. So, what are some ways that we can, you know, calm things down, de-escalate a situation?
I think if we start like earlier said with our posture, standing and like our hands straight up, are confident. I think that's de-escalating in a different type of a form because it's showing that I'm telling you that this is as far as I'm going to take it. It's a form of de-escalation, and then it's like what do we need to? How do we say things to people with that? It's got to a point where I'm like, hey, can I help you? I'm just getting my hands up. Can I help you? That's not threatening to anybody, and there's more respect like you'll get between is like, hey, can you please just stay back there? And letting them know where you want them to go. It's not like you're pointing your finger at them and saying, I told you to stay back there. So our
Mm.
disposition with some of the words we say can help de-escalate things with it. And a lot of times it's like saying back what they say to you, like they're ranting about something. Like a lot of towns and counties and cities, there's a drug problem with a lot, and the mental health. Sometimes it doesn't even make sense what they're even wanting or yelling. But you always get at the end like, I need $2 or I need food or something like that, and it just like but replying back um, in a way like bringing the question right back to them. I understand you're hungry, so how about we meet you down here at McDonald's? I'll meet you there in a couple minutes. I'll buy you anything you want. Like kind of diverting it back with it and stuff like that. Just like I think a lot of it's just how we come across
Mm.
physically
Hmm.
will de-escalate as much as what we start to say. And probably the worst thing you can say to anybody, and I've seen this for years, never end well, is just calm down. That doesn't make anybody calm down. To tell
Yeah.
them just to calm down with it, and instead it's like, hey, can I help you with something? I'm just you're trying to show some understanding, but not in a way that you're like showing a weakness of some sort where they
Yeah.
can capitalize on it.
That's so funny because I've told people, I don't know if these guys remember, but at Chick-fil-A, sometimes, if I've gotten a little frustrated or I'm talking to somebody in a little tense moment and they say, calm down. Man, that's the fastest way to make me angry. I'm just like, Jared, calm down. I'll tell you how to calm down. And it's like, does not ever work. Never has
No,
ever worked.
in the history of any argument ever.
It's like, calm down. Oh, okay. I guess I will.
Yeah.
That's never happened.
No.
Oh,
No.
good stuff. Good stuff. What's one of your craziest courtroom stories that you like to share?
I mean, there hasn't been like as many, especially in the court that I work at. Like sometimes I will get called to help out in other courts and stuff like that when they're in trouble. Um, the thing with me, like I prepare so much for my day, and I try to really see what's going on. If I have an incident, and I've had them, I feel like I failed that day
Mm.
because I really believe there's some information, some questions, something I didn't prepare that because I can talk to police officers, probation officers, counselors, victim advocates. There's so much way I can gather information to find out what could happen, how it could happen. I know the people that who don't like each other are going to be in the room with it. So I try my best to try not to let anything else and happen like that. And also all those other people in that court that day, they have a right to have their stuff heard that day. And if it's not handled right, if there's an incident, it stops.
Mm.
And I don't want court to stop. I could do everything I can to make sure we keep flowing and we keep things moving. But probably one of the ones is like it's been a while back, early on, is how the courtroom set up at the end of our hallway. We had a probation staff office, and we had a jury trial scheduled that morning. It was a criminal jury trial, and this is like at 8 o'clock, 8:15, real early. The guy failed a drug test. He knows he's going to jail. He doesn't want to go to jail. It's his kid's birthday. He's really trying to get the PO not to send them and all that. I don't remember anything else about what he did. Um, and I'm like, man, you got to take care of this. We got jurors coming in, and it's important that jurors are very neutral. I didn't want them seeing someone in handcuffs fighting before they get there, before they're getting ready to hear a
Hmm.
criminal case with that. So I head down, and when I get to turn the corner, I see him up with his hands up. And he's like, I'm not going to jail. And he knew me. He's like, Lashley, I'm not going to jail. And I looked at the PO and I'm like, okay, get your handcuffs out. And and the guy's like, you you can't take me. You can't take me to jail. You can't do this. And I remember going like looking around the corner, and he looked too, and I was banking on that. I was looking at nothing. And as soon as he turned his head and looked, I jumped on him and got a hold of him and was able to get him on the ground. And we put cuffs and stuff on him. And afterwards, and he's like, oh, what what was you looking at? I'm like, nothing. I just staring in the corner, but little things like that, little tactics, that's usually what a lot of people do. They can't help themselves. The guy, no matter how
Yeah.
mad this guy was, he wasn't going to jail. He wanted to know what I was looking at. And he turned his head right away, and I capitalized on that. But, stuff like that. I'll get more of that, most people, but I pick up right away when I go up. I know when they're going to jail. They might not know, but I know when they're going. So when I approach, I start reading the body language. I see closed fist, and he's sitting at a table. Okay, I need to angle it a different way because I could. That's potential he might want to fight. So I just start looking at stuff like that. I start watching then the crowd as I'm walking towards the person to handcuff them. I want to see if anybody else is, on his side, or that I did maybe not know was going to get upset now, or
Mm,
it could be the victim's family's mad because they don't think it's enough of a sentence.
mm,
Because and it's never enough, no matter what it is. So no one's. I always say there's no one is ever happy when they come into court or when they come out to court.
mm,
And it doesn't make a difference if you got justice that day, the full max. It still doesn't bring loved ones back. It
mm.
still, doesn't do things, make you feel any better. And I should take that back. There's only one hearing that people leave happy, and that's our adoptions. So we do have a little ray of sunshine when they come in as an adoption or something like
That's
that.
great, man. Oh, that's awesome. Hey, adventurers, ready to level up your outdoor game? At Goose Feet Gear, they're committed to keeping you crazy warm without weighing you down. I've known the founder and owner, Ben Smith, for nearly 2 decades, and his commitment to quality is outstanding. Their custom down socks, jackets, and pants are made in the USA and packed with premium 850 plus fill power goose down. Perfect for backpacking, camping, or hunting. Tailored to you with 10% off if you use the promo code FATHERHOOD. Check out goosefeetgear.com and feel the ultralight difference. That's goosefeetgear.com. I love that. Well, I think we're just about out of time here, guys. My fatherhood panel, do you guys have any final questions?
I have one, and hopefully it's not too big of a question, David. But one thing we didn't address yet was church security and awareness, or but what would you say we need to look out for most at a church? Is it like an active shooter, or is it something else?
Usually, I mean, I think you always should train or prepare for the worst, which is an active shooter of any sort. But I mean, statistics will show that other things could probably become a problem for most congregations before, a possible an active shooter with it. And some of the stuff you have to pay attention to is like what what can we do to prevent that. Maybe we use the example as a father who had it was his visitation weekend, and he knows his daughter's at the church building because that's where he knows his ex is going. He comes, I want my kid. This is my time. Here's my papers. How do we handle that? That's not an active shooter. It could be violent, but how it's handled could turn into an active shooter because we don't know when it comes to a lot of cases like that, or just people in general. We don't know the straw that broke the camel's back that day. So what does it seems minute to some others. That was it. That was the last, like I said, nail in the coffin, and you don't know how they're going to respond. So you're trying to be so preventative that you're not creating, you don't realize that it's creating maybe some type of thing like an active shooter situation of some sort with it. But most generally, it's like you see a lot of crimes with like homeless when you don't give them what they want, or I shouldn't say just homeless, but people maybe with like a drug problem, they come in asking for monies. You're not going to give it to them, so they get really, upset about it. We see a lot of more of that. So, like I said, the actual child care. You just there's stuff I've seen a lot of over the years. I've actually sat through hearings where um, they were being cased and didn't know it. People come in, and you don't realize. Obviously, if you have a visitor come, you want to treat it as a house of the Lord, house of God. you want visitors, you want them there, but there's some red flags if they're asking about how much the contributions are, you know, who takes care of the contributions and
Where
where
do you
does the
keep the
money?
tithe?
Yes, I mean stuff like that. I mean, and it's amazing how you hear that happens with I have always encouraged some of the places we go into. Some churches here in Ohio is known for putting up their attendance and how much they took in that week for the contributions. And for, obvious people who are casing that, that's a real easy target to know that 2 Sundays in a row you're averaging thousands and thousands of dollars and stuff like that. So those are a lot of things I've seen. A lot of parking lot crimes, cars being broken into, stuff like that, more than anything like that. But it's usually people just upset because of, like I said, it's monies or need food or rent money, or it's stuff that they think that they should be getting more than what they're getting, and it turns into something a little bit more with it. And then, I've had a couple different, not very many, but I guess people just protesting what some churches preach.
Hmm.
They come in and you don't know that because they've come in, you think, with a good heart, and they have another agenda on. I did private security for one of the locals that had some like speakers in, uh, like Riley Gaines, and a couple of them. I was on the security team, and we were really kind of stationed because we were told there were basically people there to uh, I pick it, dispute what she's saying and cause maybe a scene and stuff like that. And so those are the things I've seen more. And I hope I never see an active shooter scene. I hope I never set through
Mhm.
anything like that.
Right.
So to follow up on the church question, what are your thoughts? Um, how could churches do a better job of protecting children from predators within the church? Because that seems to be coming. We seem to be
Yeah.
hearing more and more public stories, not just
So
what's going on right now, but what's been happening for decades.
yeah, and I guess that was um I that would be probably the top thing now that I see more than anything. If I didn't want to get into that, but if you bring it up, then I'll
Yeah.
talk about it. But those are the tell signs of things. It is seem to be more and more of a problem, and what I think makes it so difficult because you're seeing a mixture of people who come as visitors for a while and become a member and they've been there, to people you've known your whole life while you've gone there. And that's what makes that one so difficult with it. And I think it's listening to your children more than anything. There's just certain things that they're saying that such and such, lets them do or gave me candy out of the blue consistently, a toy, or there's just no reason like they aren't regular family friends of the family or
Right.
family members. So you're getting some special treatment. Um, I've sat through a couple hearings where it was the dad got suspicious but didn't want to react on it, but his daughter was constantly sitting on the lap of somebody that it didn't make sense during services, why they should be going over there, and then to find out that he made visits to the classroom while the kid was in and stuff like that. So, but those are the things it's talking among that, and that's part of your security team. That I think that's another thing that doesn't get brought up in security teams, paying attention the stuff like that, that they see something that's out of ordinary, that you're seeing adults. And I hate constantly saying adult men, but that's the
Yeah. No,
majority
for sure.
of those cases. And you are seeing some women, now, but majority men is what I see,
Hmm.
anyways. And I think that's your security team. I think it's just as important. Like, it's a good security team is prepared for a lot more things besides just the active shooter, major medical emergencies. Making sure things are done that way, right? To watching the children, making sure that they're they're going to bathroom with the appropriate people taking them to the bathroom and stuff like that. I think that's more what that's as much as the team should be doing as anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah. That,
I guess like Jared was saying earlier, in a home, same thing applies with a church. Just any little thing you do is going to help. Locking the doors, or just watching the door if it can't be unlocked. Like, do something, right? If we're all sitting there with our backs to the entrance looking forward, and nobody's looking the other direction, that's easy for somebody to come in and do something. So just, yeah, just put a little bit of effort into it.
It,
It'll help.
right.
it, preparedness doesn't take a lot of effort sometimes, and sometimes it's uncomfortable. But if you have somebody that you feel uncomfortable, do a Google search. And every state has a sex offender registration. Every you can get so much information. The thing that's always amazed me over the years, I'm just as guilty. I'll spend 20 minutes looking for a good restaurant to go on vacation, but I won't take 5 minutes to know what neighborhood I'm in. So it's stuff like that. It's just taking a few minutes that you can get a lot of information that can tell you a lot with
Mm-hmm.
it. And especially like nowadays with like the registry, in each state's a little different, uh, how they do things too. I don't think it's everybody's on the same page with that. So some states, it's just not as a sex offender doesn't have the same length of registries, so they're not people aren't keeping tabs on them like they
Yeah.
are in some of the other states.
Hmm.
Right. Right. Well, David, you've been so enlightening and helpful, and I'm so grateful that you've given us some time this evening. I wonder if you have any last comments or anything to share with our. We're probably up to 15 listeners now. They've probably tuned in, here in the middle. Anything else that you'd like to say?
I, no, I just some of the things I think I just don't think awareness or self defense or personal protection don't turn it into paranoia. Uh, you're just trying to be a little bit more prepared. It's not being paranoid with that. And I think sometimes there's a kind of a stigma that goes around that because you are a little bit more into awareness. And I'll admit that I'm maybe a little bit uh, more than others. My family tells me that anyways, that I get a little bit more cautious. My granddaughter, who's 5, the joke is just the other day we was at the playground and I go, Eden, she goes, I know, Grandpa, Paul, it's dangerous. I'll be careful with it. So but I just think don't label yourself as being paranoid because you're not, because you're just taking some extra time to be a little bit more prepared for your loved ones and friends and family around you.
What? Why do you say that? Why do you say that? Huh, David? Yeah. Why shouldn't I be paranoid? Huh? Did somebody pay you to say that? Huh? All right. Well, thank you so much, David Lashley. Thank you for talking with us tonight. We've had
Thank
such
you
a
very
good
much.
time chatting with you. And we would love to hear from all of those listeners that are tuning in tonight. If you have a question, we can pass it on to David for sure. David, how can people find your book and how can they find you online?
If Amazon, just type in David Lashley and it comes up. And then Lashley Training Center, that's my son's gym. And I teach a lot of the classes. He took over the gym from me about over 10 years ago, but that's his full-time job. And he has a lot of free courses on there to, just different things on there, a lot of different information. And that's probably the best place to get things. So,
Okay. And Lashley is Lashley.
yes.
Great.
And you are located where in Ohio?
Mount Vernon, Ohio, which is about an hour north of Columbus, Ohio.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on Fatherhood Friday tonight. If anybody would like to get in touch with us, you can find us. You can send us an email, dads@preacherdad.com. That's DADS @preacherdad.com. We would just love to hear from you, and we can open up the mailbag and read your question on the air if it's clean. We might have to bleep some words or something, but we would love to hear from any of you that would like to get in touch with us. But mostly we want to just encourage all of you dads out there to keep on keeping on and stay vigilant, stay strong, and take good care of your families and keep them safe, because that's part of your God-given responsibility before Him to watch over and protect your family. So keep doing the good things, Dad. Every little bit helps. And we'll catch you next time on Fatherhood Friday. Hope you all have a great evening. Bye-bye. God bless.